Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pickswise Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. It is a Sunday morning. It is week 18 of the NFL. So Bobby Stanley in the saddle this morning. Heavy prop day, prop holiday, of course, where you can find him on Twitter. And that is going to be a big topic of the morning. Bobby, how are you doing, sir? Happy week 18.
We've made it, man. We've made it to the end of the regular season. And in true fashion, it is not a normal end to the season. Rough Saturday night. I mean, I know both you and I were big on the incentive props on the Saturday game. I went 3-3. I hit a 1.5 unit play and missed a 1.5 unit play on the hook. A couple hooks for me last night. It was rough, but overall some decent football.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do a post-mortem for me because I'd rather forget about the Evan Ingram situation, which I think I gave out Evan Ingram's prop on like 18 different networks this week. So as you know, other than the idiots on Twitter, I'd rather just leave that in the dust. But I think it is valuable to talk through some of the things that we saw because this is the third year that I've done these contract incentive props. Year one, no one really knew about it, and it was very, fresh, and the markets were pretty soft. Year two, last year, obviously for Pickswise, it was a really profitable year. Now year three, I think the games and the high nature, high stakes, nature of these games, I do think changes the strategy a little bit. And we talked about it too. Like for instance, with the Chiefs-Raiders game, the Raiders just came out in the second half and just took the air out of the football. And then in the Jaguars and the Titans game, we didn't see a lot of wide open Trevor Lawrence relaxed, throwing the ball all over the field. It was an intense physical game where the Titans got into the Jaguars offensive line. That caused Ingram to kind of have to block a little bit more. And I think my point being how important the game is, I think, does matter with these contract incentive props. And I think that's just something to learn and, grow from as we move forward with this strategy.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, securing the win is the top priority. And I was with you on Ingram. I had him over 4.5 receptions. He finished with 4. Most of that second half, he's staying in line and helping blocking because biggest difference from that Titans-Jags first matchup to the second is they lived in the backfield. So, we did not obviously see that coming. Ingram was 4 for 4 on all his targets. You were obviously on his yards. I went receptions, but at the end of the day, they needed to win the game, and that's what took precedence. I'm sure they'll take care of Evan Ingram in the offseason. Yes, his contract was up. I have to imagine they're going to bring him back, and they're going to compensate him handsomely. Their offense has completely been revamped. They have awesome weapons for him. Evan Ingram has turned his career around, so he'll get his money in the offseason, maybe not yesterday in the receptions. But sometimes they end up paying these guys anyway. You hear about the GM saying, he's had such a damn good season for us. We want to go into the contract negotiations in a good light. Let's pay him anyway. And they figure out a way. So we do put some stock in it. But at the end of the day, winning the game is what takes priority.
Yeah, and this is a learning experience. Again, this is a very new strategy. We've really only had 3 years, 1 day per year to really dive into this strategy. So it's impossible to say that this is a bad strategy or, an amazing strategy. 2 years of success, now 1 day of we'll see what happens today with some of these guys. And again, on the show today, we will discuss all of the games that have some prop value and some prop angles. We'll go through some of the big line moves. And then, of course, we'll tell you what the playoff scenarios are. Last night, Everything went as expected. Both favorites won. Chiefs clinched the top seed in the AFC. They will get the bye. Jaguars clinched the AFC South. They will be the 4 seed. We will find out who their opponents will be in the AFC postseason today, and we have some NFC sorting to do. Although I'll be honest, the nature of those games at the top of the NFC, like the Giants and the Eagles, and of course the Niners facing the Cardinals, not a lot of drama with those games with double-digit over 2 touchdown spreads. But of course, all of it matters and all of it trickles down, and each scenario kind of plays into the other. And we'll try to take you through each game from a prop perspective, but then we'll also tell you, all right, this is a game you should be looking at from a win-loss side total perspective. So I guess that's a good place to start. And I'll just start at the top of each game, and I'll just quickly run through a lot of these games, Bobby. And you tell me if you see and we can just quickly pass if you don't see any prop value or any value, digging into the numbers. Let's start right at the top of the list. Bucks Falcons. Falcons are favored in this game. I'm expecting the Bucks to sit most of their starters. This game means absolutely nothing to both teams. Unfortunately, unlike last year, we don't have a Rob Gronkowski prop that we can really hammer with a contract incentive. That was really the one that caused everyone to focus their gaze on these, because he's on the sidelines telling people, hey, I need one more catch. We don't have that this year, but is there anything in this Bucks-Falcons game that intrigues you from a prop perspective?
Tyler Algier, the rookie running back out of BYU, he is chasing the Atlanta Falcons rookie rushing record. I think he needs something like 110 yards. If I'm looking at some touchdown props, he's like plus 100, plus 110, but depending on what book you could find him on. So this Bucks red zone defense, one of the worst in the league over the course of the season, one of the worst in the league over the last 3 weeks. And like you said, they have nothing to play for. So I would be all over Algier if you can get his rushing prop, probably somewhere in that 70 range. And then him to score a touchdown, I love it, plus money odds.
I like that a lot because, again, the one thing we learned last night, the games that matter don't have as much value from a prop perspective in Week 18. It's just about getting the win. The games that don't matter, i.e. Bucks-Falcons, I can see where, you might have Arthur Smith trying to get Tyler Algier that record, or at least give him a chance to get that record, which means maybe some higher volume than usual. Pats Bills, listen, I expect Buffalo to be very, very emotionally charged for this game. Obviously, it's a home game. That's going to make it even more exciting, I think, with all of the positive news we've heard from Damar Hamlin this week, and the recovery has been extraordinary. Now Buffalo has a chance to go out, clinch the 2 seed. This game matters. The Patriots need a win to get in. Buffalo needs a win to hold off Cincinnati, because there's a chance that those 2 teams play again in the divisional round, and if they do, Buffalo wants home field. From a prop perspective, I think Isaiah McKenzie, again, he's in the article, 46 receiving yards to get his incentive bonus. 30.5 seems like a fair number. He went over this number the last time the Patriots played the Bills. I think he was at 44. That's the only angle I have. What do you see Pats Bills today?
I was looking at that as well. I also saw it at 32.5. I still like it at 32.5. Yeah. This New England defense to wide receiver threes, call it the lesser of the 3. They're giving him 5 targets, 35 yards receiving per game. So I do think McKenzie's a good play there. A guy I have my eye on to score a touchdown, Devin Singletary. I took a look at Josh Allen's rushing prop. He's normally in the 40s, high 40s in games that matter. He's at 38.5 today. It struck me as odd. I don't think that you're going to see him more in those red zone situations. And if I look at a game that matters, I'm probably not going to give the ball to a James Cook, a rookie. I could see Singletary getting that in. It's plus 160, plus 150. I love the value there for Singletary to get one.
Yeah, and again, this game matters, so I'm not shoving all my chips into the middle on Isaiah McKenzie, but I did play over 30.5 receiving yards. It's a 2-unit bet. It's in the write-up, the contract incentive column that I sent out earlier this week. I think that angle makes sense, not only from an incentive perspective, but also from a matchup perspective. Again, as Bobby said, the Patriots can be a little susceptible to that alternative slot receiver role. Vikings-Bears, I don't have anything here. Obviously, this game doesn't matter from a side or total perspective for Minnesota to win, to keep where their playoff standing is. They're going to be the top wild card. They're going to be the NFC North champion no matter what. I think they can maybe jump the Niners if the Niners lose, but I don't see that happening, right? It's probably going to be Niners as the 2 seed, and because they're a 14-point favorite against Arizona. But the Vikings still can win and put pressure on the Niners, and so you would think maybe there's a little bit of early starts to this game. And also, the Bears want to lose because there's a chance that they could still get the #1 pick. I don't see a world where Chicago wins this game, especially without Justin Fields.
Yeah, no, we get our annual Nathan Peterman sighting. It's I love it. No, looking at the game as far as player props, this one's tough. They're not releasing much. I have my eyes on
Yeah.
Alexander Madison. I think he comes in at least in the second half. I haven't seen lines on him. If I had to guess, if I had to put a projection, anywhere between 45, 48 and a half, you can go get him on over on that. I don't see Dalvin Cook finishing the game. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, he's like 209 yards short of the record, which I don't
Yeah.
really count as a record. I can do it in 17 games, but he is still competing for the Offensive Player of the Year. Him and Tyreek Hill are kind of jockeying, so he may have some first half motivation. I'm staying away in general, at least from a prop perspective, but Madison would be a guy I have my eye on if you can find his line.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think this is a stay away game unless you can find Madison's number. Frankly, I don't think. And what did we learn last night from Chiefs Raiders? That record that Mahomes was chasing had no impact on the way that the Chiefs really called the game. And if anything, the Raiders made it so that he had no chance to get that record just by running the ball and kind of running out the clock. It killed my over. It killed the Mahomes passing yards prop without the record. So I would stay away from the milestones today. I don't think Jefferson's going to get 200 yards. I don't think the Vikings really care. I think they're more focused on the playoffs next week. And that is more important than getting Justin a few extra routes, deep routes, catches against the Bears defense that really stinks and has nothing to play for. Ravens Bengals, this game does have some starch to it. You've got the Bengals that, of course, need to win to keep that playoff hope alive to jump Buffalo. And then you've got the Ravens, frankly, that if they win, they've got a chance to host the next round via coin flip, which don't even get me started on that. But
Yeah.
we've seen this line move considerably in favor of Cincinnati over the last couple of days, mostly because of Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson. From a prop perspective, Bobby, do you see anything with this Ravens-Bengals game? Kind of tough to peg on the Ravens side with the quarterback situation.
I do see a prop I like. I'm staying away from the Ravens entirely, at
Yeah.
least from a player prop perspective. I love Tyler Boyd today. His line is ridiculously low at 29.5. He's going to line up against the rookie safety out of Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. They've been putting him in the slot the last 4 games. The results have not been positive. He's given up a reception every 6 snaps, which is 34 out of 35. Call it cornerbacks who have qualified for this, I should say.
Sure.
Just looking at it, he's hit this line in 11 of 14 games this season. And like you said, this game matters to Baltimore. So I have no idea why this is 29.5. I love the line. I love the matchup. It's one of my favorites. It's a 1.5 unit play for me. I'm on Tyler Boyd over.
Okay. I will add Hayden Hurst to that list. Listen, I'll be honest, I thought he was trending in a really positive direction on Monday night. He started the game with a long catch. He's kind of a spark plug for this Bengals team. He's got that, he's kind of an emotional leader of the team, I think, and he's coming back from an injury. So I think he's going to be a guy that the Bengals are going to want to get involved because going forward, he's going to matter. And of course, theme of the day, he's pretty far from his contract incentive props that he needs. He's already earned about $250,000 for yards and receptions this year. He's another 100 yards away from 250K, and he's 2 receptions away from 250K. And you're not going to find a 1.5 receptions prop, but his yardage prop in the high 20s, I think, is a very good bet to make. I actually did a ladder where I put a 2-unit job on his, I want to say it was 27.5. I don't know. Check the column. It's in there. And then I moved up the list 40, 50, 60, 70, and I, downgraded my risk accordingly as we moved up the ladder. Do I think he's going to get 70 receiving yards? No. Do I think he's going to go over 26.5? Yes, because I think they're going to try to get him 2 receptions. And I think if you look at his average, that's kind of where we're sitting there. So I've seen this number go up steadily throughout the week. I think it's sitting at 30 now. I would still play a 1.5 unit at 30 and probably significantly less on the ladder because you're not going to get as much value going up. But I do think he is a guy that the Bengals want to get involved. He hasn't played in about a month with an injury, and he was looking really good on Monday night. They really wanted to, you could tell they wanted to get him involved early in the game coming off the injury. So I think Hayden Hurst in this game, hopefully the goal is, I would say, Bobby, Bengals take a first half lead and they try to get Hurst and Boyd some love late in this game as they move forward into the playoffs. Because let's be honest, we know Chase and Higgins can get it done. And I'm curious to see how they involve the the secondary guys today. All right, so that's definitely a bet for me. Bobby's got something on Boyd. I've got something on Hurst. Texans Colts, absolutely nothing for me here. I would be shocked if the Texans win this game. I've heard Lovie Smith is lobbying to keep his job. If I'm the owner of the Texans, the best way to keep your job, Lovie, is to lose this game and secure the number one pick, right?
I would agree with you there. I've been combing books for Zach Moss lines. He's been getting the lion's share of carries these last 3 weeks. He has not found the end zone yet as a Colt. This Houston Texans rush defense is probably one of the worst in the leagues. Yes, they want to lose the game. I love Zach Moss to finally get a touchdown as a Colt. You can still get it at plus odds. It's like plus 120, plus 130. He'll get a goal line carry. Their goal line defense is their red zone defense, again, one of the worst in the league. So Moss would be a guy I had my eye on. You're probably not going to get a line on him until 15 minutes before kickoff from a rushing perspective. But his touchdown props, you could still bet at plus money. So I'd go Moss for a touchdown.
The old Sam Ellinger. I guess it's Davis Mills, but we've seen a lot of Jeff Driscoll too, so I wouldn't be surprised. But I'll be honest, though. To me, Jeff Driscoll, that's the guy I want in the game if I'm trying to lose it. All right, moving on. This game this game might be the most important, second most important game, I would say, during the 1 o'clock window besides the Patriots game for the AFC playoff picture. Jets-Dolphins. Now, the quarterback matchup is something to be desired. Skylar Thompson will get the start for Miami. Joe Flacco, who was compared to a Jeep by some Jets beat reporters earlier this week because he's not a flashy guy, but when he's around, he's old, reliable. It's Joe Flacco under center for the Jets today. We've seen this line move considerably towards the Dolphins. I mean, listen, I gave out a pick'em earlier this week on Pickswise Playbook. The Dolphins as a pick'em was my best bet of the week. That was before the Joe Flacco news. Now it's at 4. I don't even know what to make of this game from a Jets side. At 4, I would say the Jets have value, but I can't bring myself to bet on Joe Flacco. From a prop perspective, with Skylar Thompson, especially for Miami, what are you seeing in this game, Bobby?
So I feel like every year there is an upset. There's going to be an upset of teams are trying to play spoiler. It usually happens in a divisional setting. I love the Jets plus 4, and I actually think they can pull it off with Flacco. Wow. I know that sounds a little bit crazy. They lost. So Flacco started the first 3 games of the season. They averaged 17 points per game in those 3 contests. They lost to Baltimore and Cincinnati. So let's fast forward to right now. Those are 2 playoff teams, but they did beat Cleveland that span, and I think they were pretty competitive in that Baltimore game. They're going to be able to move the ball with Joe Flacco. The only thing I'd be worried about is him getting knocked out of the game and us seeing Zach Wilson again. But Skylar Thompson gets the start. Sal is on record saying, I'm not playing the youth movement. I'm not letting anybody get evaluated. I'm playing my vets. Yeah. I'm playing established guys, and we're going to finish the season strong. I don't see how Skylar Thompson's going to have success scoring against this Jets defense. For a prop that I love Elijah Moore over 27.5 receiving yards because he had his best games of the season. He had his best games of the season with Joe Flacco. I think he averaged over 40 yards per game, 7 targets per game, and 4 receptions. And the best game of his career came last season against the Miami Dolphins. He had 11 targets, 8 receptions, 141 yards, and a touchdown against the Dolphins. So a player prop I love is Elijah Moore over 27.5. I think this game is competitive. I would take the Jets with the 4.
Yeah, I think at 4. Again, we'll talk about some line movements in a little bit, but let's just leave it there and we'll move on to the next prop game. Panthers Saints, nothing for me here. This game means nothing from a standings perspective, but I wouldn't be shocked if Carolina, especially because Steve Wilkes is still kind of fighting for that interim job. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw some interesting, aggressive strategies from the Panthers with Darnold, but I'll be honest, this is a tough game to handicap because I don't have a feel for what New Orleans is going to do offensively.
They're 4-0 since the bye. They're 3-0 since the bye week. They want to finish the season 4-0, but they're 2-4 against the spread coming after a win this season. So it could explain some of the line movement that we've seen. 2 starters out for the Saints that are big: cornerback Paulson Adebo and the offensive guard Andreas Pete. I have my eye on Chris Olave. He has a chance to break the rookie record for the Saints. He needs 156 yards. He's not going to get that. But I think this Panthers secondary, they're banged up. They're weak. There's no J.C. Horn. So Olave is a guy I had my eye on. I saw the line probably 15 minutes before the show at 67.5. I wanted to shop that around. It's only on one book right now. So his receptions over 4.5 are interesting, but they're heavily juiced. If you can get Olave 64.5, 65.5, I think that's a green light for me. But 67 is a little bit too high. He's only hit that maybe 4 or 5 games this season.
There you go. Chris Olave, if you're interested in this Panther Saints game today, the prop value there. Brown Steelers, this game kind of matters a little bit. And Cleveland, I think, with Watson, who's only played a handful of games, and they're trying to build towards next season, and they want to get him as many live reps as possible. I think they're going to be very invested in this game. And obviously, the Steelers playing for their postseason lives, they need a win and a ton of help. We'll see maybe we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about the games that matter in the line movement. But as the game goes on, if the Dolphins are winning, if the Patriots are winning, it kind of lessens what Pittsburgh's motivation factor could be. But from a prop perspective, Bobby, do you see anything in this game that you like?
I saw Ryan Pickett's his longest completion was 32 and a half. He's got one of the lowest ADOTs in the league amongst qualified quarterbacks. He throws his deep ball completion percentage is something like 50%. They've been running the ball consistently over the last 3 weeks with Najee Harris. He's gotten like 17, 22, 24 rush attempts, and they've been winning. I don't see them getting away from that. So under on Pickett's longest completion at 32 and a half sounds good. And then if you can get Najee Harris to score at plus odds, I'd be all over it. That's been their ticket to success these last few weeks. It's been Najee Harris. It's been that run game. So Najee Harris at plus odds, touchdown if you could find it, and Pickett under on the longest completion, 32 and a half.
Love it. Chargers, Broncos. This game, to me, is kind of a green light for two reasons. One, if the Ravens lose in the early window, this game means absolutely nothing to the Chargers. And they have two guys that are kind of on the second tier of their weaponry that have some pending contract incentive props. DeAndre Carter, two catches, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns. Each of those plateaus nets him $100,000. And I thought it was very fascinating that Lindsey Thorey, who's the ESPN reporter for the Chargers, put out this long feature piece. There's a link to it in my contract incentive prop column about his history. And literally, if you ever saw the movie Mr. Carter, this guy was a substitute teacher at a middle school in California very recently, like a few years ago, and stayed in shape, worked out, and then got his chance and, kind of bounced around some different teams. He's had a pretty good year with the Chargers because they've had some injuries at wide receiver, and he's needed to be kind of thrust into the mold. I will mention that he has already hit a couple of other contract incentive markers this season. He hit 200,000 at 25 and 35 receptions, another 200,000 at 350 and 450. And I think he's going to be a guy to keep an eye on, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The other guy, Gerald Everett, needs 5 catches for 250,000 bones. And that's kind of right around his number all year. He's been in the, most tight ends are 3, 4, 5 range, depending, unless you're obviously Travis Kelce, but Gerald Everett is not. But I think the reason why both of these props have value, I think there's 2 reasons. One, obviously, these are guys that have been a part of the offense this year. Denver's been a little bit balky against tight ends for Everett. And the Chargers, to me, are a team that throws the ball a lot, too. Secondly, if the Ravens win this, or if the Ravens lose their game, this game means nothing to the Chargers. Wouldn't you think Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, with all the injury concerns they've had, if this game means nothing to the Chargers, those guys are going to sit and maybe an Everett and a Carter get a little more run. So this is a bet that I'm probably not going to make until, let's say, about halftime-ish of the early window. But I am going to be keeping a very close eye on Carter and Everett in that 1, 2 o'clock Eastern time zone. And then we'll see what happens, and we'll see what numbers we get. I haven't bet anything yet, but I think I'm going to be betting Carter in some capacity, either touchdowns or yards. And absolutely, if we find a Gerald Everett receptions prop, that is a bet for me. Anything else for you in this Chargers-Broncos game?
Really nothing else on mine. I'm all over Everett like you. I bet him probably 3 or 4 times this season on the reception line. His standard reception line has been 3.5. It's been profitable. You have to imagine if and when we finally get his line, it's going to be 4.5. There's probably going to be some juice to it, but I also feel good about it. So Denver, the only lines I'm seeing right now are Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, some receptions, some yards. None of that stands out to me. I don't know what I'm getting from this Broncos offense, and we don't know how much this game's going to matter. When in doubt, if you're in doubt, don't. Just stay away. But Everett's a guy I'm probably going to have my eye on. They're not going to let us get it in the 1 o'clock window before the 1 o'clock kickoffs. But if you watch during the 1 o'clock games, you may be able to get that line.
Yeah, make sure you got your Twitter alerts on. I will be sending out some kind of an update. I'll estimate around 2 o'clock Eastern time. I don't know exactly when, but let's just throw that out there as kind of a placeholder time. And again, the matchup matters here. I'm looking at the Broncos right now, third most receiving yards, seventh most targets to tight ends this year. So just like last night with Ingram, it didn't work out that way, but the matchup favored it in addition to the contract incentive props. The one thing this game doesn't have that last night's game had was the high stakes nature of it. There's a pretty decent chance, the Bengals are almost a double-digit favorite, that this game means absolutely nothing. And if it doesn't mean anything, this might actually be kind of a 3-4 unit job on our pal Gerald Everett, and maybe I'll split the baby with Carter. I'll do like some yards and some touchdowns, and we'll split the allocation accordingly. But this game is squarely in my crosshairs. We just have to wait and see what the Bengals do, and we have to see what the sportsbooks give us, which we should find out a little bit later this afternoon. All right, the next two games, I'll go very briefly. Giants, Eagles, Cardinals, Niners. I have absolutely nothing to offer here. If you are betting these games, unless you're taking the points with the Giants or the Cardinals, I think you're asking for trouble, but tough to bet and tough to really gauge where these offenses are going to be because of just, one side really needs the game and the other side literally could care less.
I have nothing from a standard player prop perspective. Something that stands out, and I always love to give some crazy odds on here. Jalen Hurts gets 2 rushing touchdowns. He owns Cam Newton's record. It's plus 600 on most books, plus 550 on some.
Wow.
Yes, he's coming back from a shoulder injury, but we've seen, of his 14 or 15 rushing touchdowns this season, how many has he walked in completely untouched just because they're so good at scheming him open that way? So him to score 2 touchdowns is plus 600. It's something I'm going to play around with today. I think him to score 1 touchdown is plus 105, plus 110. And this game matters to the Eagles. If they win, and this is just money line, I'm not talking about the points. If they win, they clinch the NFC East. They clinch the 1 seed. They clinch home field advantage. So for at least the first half of this game, they are going to be very, very motivated and competitive. And Davis Webb starting for the Giants. It's his first career start. I try to find historical data on Davis Webb. It does not exist. So Jalen Hurts, two tutties for plus 600 is something I got my eye on for some fun props.
Here's why that has value to me. I know that this game doesn't matter once the Eagles take their inevitable 2-score lead, but Jalen Hurts hasn't played in a month. I would imagine with the bye coming up, they are going to want to give him some extended run in this game. First of all, he hasn't played in a month. Second of all, they don't play next week, assuming they have a lead and they're going to win.
Get the one.
To me, those two things, that sandwich, strategy, not playing the last 4 weeks, not playing next week, I think he plays this entire game, and I think they run their legit offense for this entire game. So I would absolutely look at that. What is just his regular touchdown? If it's 6-1 for 2, is he plus money for a single touchdown?
He is. It's like plus 105, plus 110.
That's a bet to me. Yeah. That is a bet you have to make.
You can get. Give me 1 second. If you can get him to score a touchdown in the Eagles' money line, no points, I think you can get that.
100% in a same game parlay. You absolutely could get that.
It's plus 135.
Probably going to be like it's plus 125. You're only getting 5 extra cents on the dollar, so it's not a huge escalator. But sure, you can get the extra 5 cents and play that. How about the 2 touchdown parlayed with the Eagles to win? That might be. It might get a little better there.
I love where this show has gone, man. I used to watch this show for at least the last 2 years, and now we got plus 600 odds we're talking about. I'm enjoying it. But we tried. It's week 18. Some of these games mean nothing. Some of these games will mean something for half the game. If we can hit a plus 600 before the end of the season, I feel really good about that.
Well, we're going to hit DeAndre Carter 2 touchdowns today, 40-1. That's going to happen. So after last night's garbage, we deserve a little bit of an escalator. We're going to hit DeAndre Carter 2 touchdowns today. I'm telling you, the Ravens are going to lose. The Chargers are going to say, okay, DeAndre, go get that money, Mr. Substitute Teacher, and they're going to throw him some red zone looks. But we'll get there later. All right, this game actually, no, I take that back. Let's finish our NFC East tour here. Cowboys, Commanders. So I could see a world here where the Cowboys in the beginning of the game play it like it matters. Then they go into halftime and they see the Eagles just mollywhopping the Giants, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, let's just relax. And the second half, we see Washington come out and play well after Sam Howell goes through his early jitters of his first career start. I think the Commanders' second half money line, it's like plus 150. I think that has some value, but you have to bet it before the game. You can't wait till halftime because at halftime, the books are going to know what the Giants-Eagles score is, and they're going to adjust accordingly. So I'm not saying I'm going to bet that, but if you want to bet this game, I would bet the Commanders' second half money line just based off of that strategy alone. Prop angles for you, Cowboys, Commanders. What's your vibe here?
I haven't seen much. I don't know what to expect from Sam Howell. I know he has some legs to him. I know he's been a favorite within the locker room. Curtis Samuel, over 25.5 receiving yards, stands out. Why? He's going to be your short yardage guy. He's your slot guy. If you're Sam Howell and you're a first-time starting quarterback, it's tight ends and it's short yardage situations just to get you comfortable to start the game. So Curtis Samuel is someone I could see getting 3 or 4 receptions. That 25.5 seems low enough. And then Logan Thomas, again, a tight end is a inexperienced quarterback's dream. So those two guys stand out to me, but this game, not much I feel super confident about.
All right, now to the games that matter. And we get this Rams-Seahawks game. I know you're going to be very invested in this game from a fandom perspective. And I think your Rams are very live here. So I put 6.5 in the column, best bets column earlier this week. It's a 2-unit play for me. And again, to me, the handicap here, it's literally the exact same handicap reversed from the Bucs-Panthers game last week, where the Bucs were a 6.5-point favorite on the look ahead. All of a sudden, they look like crap against Arizona. The Panthers look great. That line moves 3.5 points at open the prior Sunday from Bucs 6.5 to Bucs -3. And the one thing I've learned about betting the NFL over the years, when a line moves by more than a field goal and there's not a quarterback injury involved, it's likely moved too much. And what happened? The Bucs won the game by 6. They didn't cover the look ahead, but they covered the overcorrection that took place after they played. Same thing happened here. The Seahawks were a 3-point favorite on the look ahead last week. What happened? Seattle looked great against the Jets. The Rams looked bad. They lose. All of a sudden, the following week, it's 6.5 at reopen. Nothing's changed with these two teams from the prior week. Still the same quarterback, no injuries, everything's the same. I think 6.5 is an overcorrection. I don't necessarily think the Rams will win the game, but I just think 6.5 is an overcorrection. So I'm taking 6. It's 6 now. I'd still take the 6, but I have 6.5 with the Rams. From a prop perspective, I'm sure there's some angle here, especially with the Rams, that might interest you. But what about on Seattle's side? Anything interesting?
Kenneth Walker. So Kenneth Walker to score a touchdown is -115. He scored 4 touchdowns in 5 home games as a starter this year. The Rams' red zone defense over the last 3 weeks, I think they've given up a red zone touchdown 88% of the time. So for me, it's going to be Kenneth Walker. That Rams secondary is still pretty damn good. Geno Smith, he had 2 touchdowns in 5 or 6 straight games. He missed it, I think, the last 2. He's plus money odds, I think, to have over 1.5 touchdowns. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to run the ball heavily. If you want to add in Seattle money line to that Kenneth Walker touchdown, you'll start getting at some plus odds. I do think Seattle wins this game. The 6.5 point does seem like a lot. Baker Mayfield, his 2 victories with the Rams have been at home. He did not look good in Green Bay. I've been to that Seattle stadium. It is damn loud. It's going to be a playoff atmosphere. I don't know how successful the Rams offense is going to be scoring points. They may be able to move the ball. Hint, hint, my play of the day. But Kenneth Walker for a touchdown is something I feel really good about.
I think they're going to run the ball well. And I don't think we can look at what Seattle's defense did last week and take that with any grain of salt, because to me, this is a very, very, very bad Seattle defense. And the Jets had nothing offensively in that game. Their offensive line was completely in shambles. Mike White was hurt. Mike White didn't finish the game and couldn't even play this week. That shows you how hurt he was in that game last week against Seattle. I think the Rams' offensive line, which has been playing a little better the last few weeks, a little more stability on that offensive line, I think they're going to move the ball in this game. And again, do not tell Bobby Wagner this game means nothing. I mean, he's going to be fired up for this. And I think him being the leader of the defense will filter down to the rest of that defense. And I think this is going to be a very emotional game. The Rams would love nothing more than to remove Seattle from the playoff picture. So this is a very heated rivalry, as you know, over the years. And I think the Rams are going to be up for this game. Do they win it? Probably not. Do they keep it close? I think so. I think Rams +6, plus 6.5 if it moves back up is a really good bet. But Bobby thinks the Kenneth Walker prop also certainly worth looking at. All right, the finale, the dessert to our day, Lions-Packers. I don't think this game offers a lot of side value, but from a prop perspective, if we get a Khalif Raymond prop at any point today, I've not seen one yet, but he is 50 receiving yards away from 250K. That is a big chunk of change. He's only hit this mark 4 times all year, but 2 of those times have come in the last 3 games, including a couple of weeks ago when he ran a beautiful route from the slot on an arrow, and Goff off play action just put it right in the breadbasket. So I don't know if we're going to get a Khalif Raymond receiving yards prop at any point today. Sometimes the Sunday night games, they will slowly drop props throughout the day for some of the lesser guys. I've seen a lot of the other guys of the Lions and the Packers on the board today. None of that interests me. From your perspective, any props in this Lions-Packers game have any value?
Well, as you mentioned, we won't really know how much this game will matter until the Seattle and Rams game. I'm actually banking on this game not mattering for Detroit, and that motivation will start to deteriorate. I'm on Jared Goff under 250.5 passing yards. I haven't seen anything like this. I shopped this around to 4 or 5 different books. It was as low as 243.5, as high as 250.5. You may be able to get 252.5. I'm on the under on this. I've seen, as a Rams fan, I've seen Jared Goff play in Lambeau in January, and it's not pretty. I think he put up 170 yards passing in that game. Matt LaFleur, very, very familiar with Jared Goff, head coach of the Green Bay Packers. I don't think it matters. I think he's going to struggle against that Packers secondary. It's one of the better in the league. They've been playing outstanding these last few weeks. So under on his prop. Allen Lazard, a receiving prop, over 49.5. It stands out to me because it's cold. He's a vet. He's someone that Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with, and he tends to favor those guys he trusts. If we can get a Randall Cobb line, I would be all over that, but they're not going to release that until 10 minutes before kickoff. So Lazard over on receiving 49.5, Jared Goff under 250.5, and I don't think this game matters, sadly, even though I hope it does. I would love for it. Do you think that line changes? Do you think 4.5 become 2.5 if the Rams end up upsetting Seattle?
It's a perfect transition. Let's go into the Week 18 key games, and let's just move the line right along, and we'll kind of look at this game from the other perspective, because I think what you're going to see this afternoon, I guess it's late afternoon, Rams-Seahawks, it's a bit of a disadvantage for us that the Rams-Seahawks game is at 4:30 and this game is at 8:30. I would have preferred Rams-Seahawks to be earlier in the day to allow some of the market to settle before this game starts. But my guess is, if I had to guess, if the Rams win, or let's just say the Rams are trending towards winning, for example, they're up 10 at halftime, you are going to start to see the erosion of this Lions line. It'll go probably 4.5, then 4, then 3.5. And my guess is it'll settle around 3-ish, maybe 3.5, 3.25, like a juice 3, if the Rams finish the job. Like, for example, like if it's Rams by 10 at half, you'll start to see, all right, Lions down to 4.5. Then if it's third quarter, Rams still have a touchdown lead. All right, now it's going to be, 4. And then if they finish the job, I think it'll close, my guess is around 3.5. I would say the motivation is worth at least 1 point, maybe 2 here. So that's kind of the range you have to look at. Now, on the flip side, if the Seahawks are blowing out the Rams, my guess is you start to see Packers minus 5.5 or Packers minus 6. I don't think it'll get to a touchdown. I think that would be a bridge too far. And I'll be honest, if it does get to a touchdown, I think Campbell and his boys are going to be fired up for this game. So if it moves too much to the other direction, the Lions have value. And then obviously, if it moves too much in the Lions direction, I would say the Packers have value. I think it's fair right now at 4. We're up to 5. But yes, to answer your question, based on how the Rams-Seahawks game is trending, this line will move. Exactly like we saw last year with the Ravens-Bengals, with the Chargers-Raiders line later that night. We saw a ton of movement with that game. And then all of a sudden, I think it was the Ravens that came back and won, and it changed. Or I forget how the scenario worked out, but there was a lead in that game, and then a team came back and won, and it changed. It like flipped the scenario on its head. So keep a very close eye on Rams-Seahawks. That game will be a leading indicator for what happens Lions-Packers. But you're 100% right. that will change the value involved with this game. But I'll be honest, I think the Lions keep it close. I like Green Bay to win the game, but I don't think I would lay more than a field goal with them.
No, I wouldn't like more than the field goal. If you are from the Motor City and you do believe the Lions are going to have a shot, if you parlay the Rams money line and Detroit money line, it's 7.5 to 1. I mean, if you're a fan, the average bettor who has no stake in a Detroit outcome, I would take points in every scenario possible. But if you believe in your Lions and you want to see a miracle, Rams money line, Detroit money line, as of right now, is almost 8 to 1. There is some milestone. There's a milestone for Jamal Williams in this game.
Yes.
Jamal Williams, if he gets 2 rushing touchdowns, he breaks Barry Sanders. He breaks or ties Barry Sanders' touchdown record in a single season for the Lions. So him to score is something to keep an eye on. I just want the game to be competitive, man. I want end of the regular season. I want the game to matter. I would love to see. I think universally, the betting community and the football community has been rooting for the Lions all season. I want to see them get in. If they do get in, and we throw this phrase around all the time, they're a team that no one wants to play. They can score with anyone in the league. They can run the ball exceptionally well. They have that 2-back system. Defensively, on the back end, that very susceptible. But I do like what they do with the front line, and I do think that they can put up 25 to 28 points a game. So if they get in, they're going to be a damn fun wildcard team to watch.
Yeah, the problem is they can't defend a lick, and they've given up, I think, the most points this season to anybody. So I like the Jamal Williams angle because I do think that's the recipe to win this game is to run the ball and keep Aaron Rodgers on the sidelines. I don't think, again, this is one of the highest totals. It actually is the highest total of the day, currently sitting at 49. So I think it's fair to assume there's going to be points in this game. And I do think 2 touchdowns for Jamal Williams is a very intriguing angle. I would probably not bet this game until, again, just like the Ravens Bengals leading into Chargers Broncos, I think I want to wait and see how that game is trending first before I bet. Same for this game. I think I want to wait, see what Rams Seahawks looks like, at least in the first half, and then I'll make some adjustments and perhaps some wagers on this game. So long story short, follow us on Twitter, keep your alerts on, and stay close to your computer during these games or your screen, because there's a lot of if this happens, then this has value scenarios that are playing out today. We just don't know yet. There's not a lot of cut and dry, like, oh, yeah, this has value right now, standalone. So it's all about what happens with one team affecting the results and then impacting the next game. Speaking of that, this game has none of that. Jets-Dolphins, very simple scenario for the Dolphins. They need to win, and they need the Patriots to lose. Of course, the Patriots are a touchdown and a hook underdog today. That being said, this line has now moved to the point at 4 where I think it is hard to find any value on Miami. And thank you to the gentleman in the chat, Stephen R. It was a Ford pickup, not a Jeep. All right, fair enough. That's what we're comparing Joe Flacco to. It's the same comparison. He's old, reliable, and he's going to get the start today for the Jets. I mean, you would imagine he's an upgrade from Zach Wilson. I really don't think it matters. The Jets offensive line, Dwayne Brown, the only guy playing well on the Jets offensive line was their left tackle, Dwayne Brown, the veteran who they brought in to replace Mekhi Becton in the offseason. He's not playing today. You've got the right side of the offensive line that has been an absolute disaster. They got destroyed by the Jags 2 Thursdays ago, and then on Sunday against the Seahawks, I mean, it was ugly. Mike White was getting pressure in his face left and right. I don't see Joe Flacco doing well against that. Maybe there's some scheme here against the Dolphins secondary because they have been a little susceptible. Maybe there's some deep routes available. You mentioned Elijah Moore. I just don't see a world where the Jets win this game, but stranger things have happened, of course, in Week 18.
We talked about it before at the top. I'm taking the Jets plus the 4. I'm looking at Joe Flacco in his first 3 games this season. Wow. 285 yards passing, 307 yards passing, 309 yards passing, and that's against the Bengals, Cleveland, and Baltimore. I think are all better defenses than Miami. I just think the Jets are going to be able to move the ball, and I don't think Skylar Thompson's going to be able to move the ball against this Jets defense. As Salah was saying, they're playing everyone. They're playing motivated football, and they want to finish this season strong. If Flacco can score, say he scores on one of the first 2 drives, this Jets team is going to be completely into it. So I'm taking the points, and I think this may be the upset of the week for me.
Wow. All
Yep,
right,
I'm
Bobby's
doing it.
feigning my play of the week. That's okay. We'll see what happens. Um, I think I think there's a case to be made for the Jets being up for this game. I just don't see how they get any sustained offense. Their offensive
It's a
line is we talked about it last night. I saw when I was going through Twitter when I got off the plane last night and I was looking at all the analysis of the Jags game. The Jaguars offensive line was getting absolutely manhandled. And the only reason why they won that game was a fumble six. And could that happen in this game? Sure. Can I predict that? No. But the Jets' offensive line is in worse shape than the Jaguars, and they don't have Trevor Lawrence, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram to bail them out. Much younger, much more inexperienced group of receivers. I would be shocked if the Jets get sustained offense in this game because of their offensive line and what the Dolphins have done with their front. I mean, the Dolphins' front, they're a top 5 pass rush win rate team. Jalen Phillips is a Pro Bowler. I think Christian Wilkins and Melvin Ingram have had good seasons as well, deserve some flowers. I just don't know how the Jets get sustained offense in this game. Could a fluky play happen where the Jets take the lead and then Skylar Thompson screws the pooch? Absolutely, that is a scenario that could play out. But I don't see sustained offense because of the Jets' offensive line. These games are always won and lost in the trenches. And I think the Dolphins' offensive line is Terran Armstead playing. I haven't actually looked at that injury report today. Is he questionable today? It looks like he's doubtful. All right, he's doubtful. So Armstead probably isn't going to play. That obviously makes this a little less valuable. But even this morning, I'm seeing this line move from 3.5 to 4 at the sharper shops here in town. So I think there's some love for the for the Dolphins in the market. We'll see how it plays out. Bobby, I hope you're right because the Jets need a win just to salvage what's been a disaster season. They've lost a million games in a row, but I don't know. I don't see it happening with that offensive line. All right, let's close things out with the Browns and the Steelers. I really want to take the Browns at 3, but there are no 3s left in the market because I think every other sharp person on the planet also thinks that the Browns have value at 3 here. Do you think Cleveland has a chance to win this game? I mean, I think the Steelers and Pickett have been playing well. The offensive line's been playing well. If the Browns get to 3 at any point this morning, I might nibble, but I don't have a strong opinion on that one.
I'd be with you on the 3. I mean, I'm leaning Steelers money line because we talked about it earlier. Najee Harris, that run game, they've been able to control the clock and really feed him the ball and get him going. And then Cleveland, 4th most rushing yards per game over the last 3, 7th most overall on the road this season. I look at Watson, and I was looking for progression over the last few weeks. I see no improvement. His completion percentage has, if anything, gone down over the last 3 weeks. He is getting it done with his legs. Their wins against Houston and Washington, they don't impress me. One of those games was a snow game. I don't know what to make of that. And then what do we talk about? Jadeveon Clowney this week is just not showing up because he thinks they like Myles Garrett more than him. And if you think I'm making that up, I'm paraphrasing pretty well. I don't know what to expect from this Browns team. I would go with the Steelers. I would go with them controlling the clock. If it gets to 3, take the Browns at 2.5. I would just take Steelers money line at that point.
I agree. I think this is a stay away for me again. If we get a 3 in the market anytime in the next hour or so, I might nibble, but I don't feel that strongly. We've got enough units deployed elsewhere today to where we can feel good about passing here. All right, so listen, guys, we went through every freaking game on the board. We gave you every angle, every playoff scenario, every prop angle, every contract incentive angle, and I feel confident that Bobby and I gave you our best stuff today. So we will move forward and remind you that Let's Bet It presented by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, of course, rooting for safeties because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety this season. Place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or total. And if there is a safety scored in any game on Sunday, I'm betting we have one today with all the weirdness, you will get a $50 bonus. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. All right, play of the day. I will start out and give you a few picks that are on the Pickswise board today. Cleb TA, our pal, he likes the Browns. 3-star bet at 2.5. Again, if it gets to 3, based off of what I just said, maybe I'll nibble there. Andrew Ortenberg's on the Vikings Bears over. Howard Bender is on the Cardinals Niners over, and I gave you the Dolphins money line. Unfortunately, that line has moved to the point now where I would not bet it at the current price, but I do still think the Dolphins win that game. All right, Bobo, what is your play of the day?
Play of the day for me, Tyler Higbee, tight end for the Los Angeles Rams, over 32.5 receiving yards. He leads the team in targets over the last 3 weeks. As soon as Ben Skoranek went down, he became Baker Mayfield's number one target. Seahawks give up the most yards per game to opposing tight ends, the third most targets per game to opposing tight ends. And if he gets 13 yards, just 13, he hits $500,000 in contract bonuses. He is very familiar with playing in Seattle. I think he's like a 7-year vet. So give me Higbee over 32.5 receiving yards as my play of the day.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be adding Higbee to my card. Again, for all the people out there wondering how I'm going to be adding props to that column today, I will add them to the column, then I will tweet out on that thread, I've added this, I will be booing that, blah, 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 blah. So keep that thread and that Twitter alert activated, and I will be adding bets over the next few hours because last night I was traveling, and then today we've been doing the show, so I haven't really had a chance to really digest my portfolio. We're going to get to it this morning. We got a couple hours till kickoff, so keep that in mind. That being said, I'll give you something completely off the beaten path for my play of the day because we've beaten every single prop angle and every other NFL angle with a dead stick. So let's talk about the FCS championship game today. And I know this game is like the last thing on your mind. That's why I think it offers some value because nobody is adjusting lines. I haven't seen this total move an inch all week, and I think the South Dakota State North Dakota State under 47. I got 47.5, but I think the 47 will be the line we grade this as because overall, this is a game that is played outdoors in Frisco, Texas, between two teams defensive-minded. This is not your grandfather's or even your older brother's North Dakota State team that's won 10 out of the last 12 FCS championships. They are not as talented in years past. And this South Dakota State team is live. They almost beat Iowa earlier this year. And I know Iowa. See what Iowa did to Kentucky a few weeks ago, an SEC team. So I think South Dakota State is a team with a defense that can absolutely get into you, and they are going to want to knock off North Dakota State in this rivalry game that happens to be for an FCS championship. So, again, not the sexiest game on the board today, probably an afterthought being played in the middle of the early window of the NFL, but again, that's where the value sometimes is. It's not on the high-profile games. It's on the undercard. This is clearly the undercard today, so I'll give you South Dakota State, North Dakota State, under 47. There are 47.5s available. Obviously, if you can find that number, that is where I would play it. All right, Bobby, that's about 50 minutes of our best work, pal. Week 18 in the NFL, even an FCS game. Fantastic job this season. Thank you for being our prop expert. Obviously, the postseason still beckons and calls, and we will have lots of work to do then. But for the most part, this feels like a nice bow on what has been a wild season in the NFL.
We had, man. We had some fun. We hit some long shot TD scores. I'm excited for the postseason. You know, the marquee names are really where the lines are going to be at, focusing on your best players. But love the regular season. This has been awesome. I can't wait. Similar to what Jared said, I'm going to be updating my player prop article over the next hour and a half, 2 hours, as more lines trickle in. So go to the Pickswise app, go to the Pickswise site, refresh my article. I have 3 plays up on that app, plus my anytime touchdown scorer article. There's some fun ones on there. I didn't go over one today, but I have a couple guys at plus 500 or more. I've been hitting them. JaMychal Hasty last week. So keep an eye on that. And thank you, man. It's been awesome working with you this year.
It's been a blast. You do fantastic work. And anyone who's watching this show by now already knows that. But if you're, happen to wake up today and this is your first time watching this show, I've been capping sports now pretty handily on TV for about 3 years. I haven't seen anyone with the chops that you have handicapping props. It is not an easy market to swim in. It is a very convoluted market. There is a lot of competition. There are a lot of fish in the sea. And Bobby, you are a shark, my friend. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Pickswise, Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Bobby Stanley, Bobby Stanley, Prop Holiday on Twitter. I'm Jared Smith. Good luck today. And keep those Twitter alerts popping because we have bets still to make based off of lines and things that shake out over the next few hours. So just because the show ends doesn't mean the gambling ends, but let's bet it.
Later.